Good afternoon. This is a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of January the 17th, 2019. I apologize for our late startup, but can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Erasmo Villarreal,
Present.
José Tellez, Carlos Flores, Javier Compián, Raúl Ugalde. Present. Johnny Narváez. Present. Joe Villarreal. Present. Daniel Lopez.
Present.
Jorge Dominguez. For the record, Mr. Chairman, you do have quorum.
Okay, I did get messages from Mr. Tellez, Mr. Flores is out of town, and Mr. Compián is out of town, and Mr. Dominguez having the commitment. So we can have a motion to excuse them.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion to second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Can everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the next item that we have is the consideration of the approval of the minutes of January the 3rd.
Make a motion if everybody's ready. Yeah.
Okay,
Make a motion to approve the minutes, January 3rd. Second.
and the second, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries, thank you. Next item that we have is, do we have any citizens' comments?
No.
Thank you. Next item that we have is item 6A.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Before we begin, we did have a request from a member of the audience. They wanted to move up item, it's zone case 15, which is item 6E.
6E,
Yeah.
okay. Do we have a motion from the board to move it up?
Make a motion to move up item 6E.
We have a second? Second. And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. All right, this is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning lots 7 and 8 block, I believe that's 817 Eastern Division, located at 1520 Cortez, from R3, mixed residential district, to B3, community business district. The letters that were sent out were 20. There was no one in favor and one in opposition. Is that correct? Any updates?
Yes, two in opposition.
Two in opposition, okay. The staff does not support the request for the reason that it does not conform with the comprehensive plan designation. This area is designated as high residential. All right, this is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor?
Good evening. For the record, this is Cantu. I represent the applicant, Ms. Laura Mendoza, and we're speaking in favor of zone change.
Okay, let me ask you a real quick question, Mr.
Sure.
Cantu. The site is a vacant residential unit. What is the proposed area is to do what?
B3. Right now, it's an R3.
What, are you proposing a commercial strip center or what is it?
No, it's just general merchandise.
Okay, using the existing building.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Cantu? Thank you, Mr. Cantu. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor of the zone change? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change, against the zone change? Yes, please.
Sir, my family's lived there for 100 years. It's
Can we
always
have your
been-
name for the record, please?
Oh, Sandy Varial,
Thank you.
and my family's lived there or owned the property for 100, almost since the house was built. I've lived there over 50 years, been in and out of there all my life. It's never been anything but residential. Lots of small children live in the neighborhood. A used car lot is dangerous.
Okay.
For the record, my name is Nick Villarreal, and I'm against this proposal. This is the third time that we have been before this committee and the city council with the same proposal. They have been turned down unanimously twice. This is the third time again. And reason being that the aesthetics, even though they're not supposed to be having a used car lot, if I can show you some pictures.
Sure. Okay. There it is.
That's what it looks like. At times, there's anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 cars there. And in the back, there's all parts, fenders and so on and so forth. So if nothing else, the aesthetics, we're against it, okay? There's a shed that was built there. You can see all the parts that are in that pile. And whenever they've been there, there's cars parked on the street on Cortez. The traffic there is real bad because people try to circumvent the intersection of Market and Meadow, so they come down and Seymour and Cortez or Seymour and Guatemala. And when there's cars parked on both sides of the street, that's only one car can go there, through there at a time. So there's a very important safety factor involved also. So that's why we're against it.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. or Mrs.
I have a
Yap?
question for staff. For the intended use for the applicant, is a B3 what is required, or could they go B1?
Well, they haven't, the applicant hasn't specified an intended use, but for a used car lot would require a B3.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change, against the zone change? Okay, if not, what are the wishes of the commission? We have a motion, close public hearing, support staff. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. All right, we'll return to our agenda. This is 6A. This is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by repealing ordinance number 2013-0-125 and authorizing the issuance of revised CUP for an amusement redemption machine establishment. Changing the tenant on Lot 2C, Block 1, SATF, Phase 3, located at 3917 Jaime Zapata Memorial Highway, Suite 1 and 4. The proposed use is an amusement redemption machine. The staff said 16 letters out, 1 in favor. Is there any update?
No update.
No update, okay. And the staff's recommendation is to support the CUP. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the CUP?
Buenas tardes, voy a hablar en español.
Okay?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Alma Arellano, yo soy dueña de ahí de la propiedad. La razón que quiero hacer esta enmienda es porque hace 3 años, desgraciadamente yo me divorcié, yo refinancié ya los locales, he trabajado bastante para hacerlos ya que estén a mi nombre, entonces necesito quitar a mi ex esposo del permiso y también cambiar de persona que renta. Y eso es lo que les pido. Hasta ahorita todo se ha seguido como me lo pidieron en la ordenanza.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? Okay, gracias. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the CUP, in favor of the CUP? Anybody who wishes to speak against the CUP, against the CUP?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I'm Eduardo Rendon, and I live next to the place that they're going to place. I don't know if they're going to put maquinitas again or not.
Yes, sir.
I'm against that.
You're against the
So,
maquinitas?
yeah, I have such a bad experience in the past, so with that kind of businesses, so I'm opposed.
Okay, sir. Any questions? from the commission?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak against the CUP, against the CUP? Okay, if not, what are the wishes of the commission?
I have a question for staff. You're supporting the conditional use permit only because they're transferring the use?
Yeah,
It's,
this was a conditional use permit that was already in existence. The purpose of the new conditional use permit is simply to change the tenant. The previous conditions would apply under the reissuance or the new CUP, and that we were not opposed. We had not received any complaints, other than, we didn't even receive any in opposition, so.
How long has it been operating?
In operation, the
13.
previous
Yeah, the ordinance is
CUP
13.
looks like it was issued in 2013.
I see.
Any other questions from the commission for the staff? Or any other questions?
No questions.
All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make the motion to support staff recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. The next item is public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning approximately 8.8547 acres. It's located south of Soria Drive and west of Ejido Avenue from R3 to R1MH. The proposed use is residential, and the staff supports the proposed zone change. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Wayne Nance, Board of Residence Engineering. We are on board with staff. We support this zone change. It's surrounded by mobile homes, and this one will be a mobile home as well. And we look forward to your agreeing with that. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Nance from the commission? Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change? In favor of the zone change? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? Against the zone change? All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to close public hearing and support staff recommendation for the proper zone change.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor of the zone change?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. The next item is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning approximately 4.24 acres. And it is located east of US Highway 83 and south of Sierra Vista Boulevard from AG to B3. The proposed use is commercial. The site is currently vacant and undeveloped land. There is any updates on the letter sent out?
No updates.
No updates, okay? The staff supports the proposed zone change. All right, this is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor?
Good evening, members of the commission staff. Edward Ochoa with CEC and representing the client. And we're here to support the zone change, and if you have any questions for us.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor of the zone change? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change, against the zone change? Against the zone change? Okay, what are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to close public hearing and support staff recommendation. Approve the zone change.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning Lot 1, Block 1, Fiesta subdivision located at 101 Altamira Drive from B3 to B4. The proposed use is a commercial parking, and there was 35 letters sent out. Is there any updates?
We have one in support.
In support, all right? The staff does not support the proposed zone change because the comprehensive plan designated use for this area is neighborhood mixed use, okay? This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this zone change, in favor?
For the record, my name is David Garcia. Good afternoon, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Before I get into this, I think before you make a decision, I think you should hear a little bit of background on how I got involved. I'm the representative for the owners. They received a citation from the city because they were using that lot. And the owner is Mr. Cervantes, who's here, and he's been operating Cervantes Motorworks, which is right next door to the east of the property in question. And we're using that lot basically as an overflow lot, not to work on vehicles, but vehicles that were finished being repaired were put there. And I would like to add that the majority of his contracts and the vehicles that are in question that brought up the issue are city vehicles. So his primary business is repairing city heavy equipment. And that's what's brought up the issue and why we're here today. As indicated in your, I guess the members of the Zoning and Planning Commission office were kind enough to give me an advance, I guess, copy this morning of the recommendations. And I know that the recommendations right now are against making the change from a B3 to a B4. But one of the things that they had pointed out is that one of the options was to allow for CUP, and I'm assuming that's a conditional use permit. Well, the problem with that is that it's temporary. Now, Mr. Cervantes has been operating there as a repairman for over 40 years, and he bought that lot 5 years ago in 2015 and has been using it that. And what the city had suggested in the warning they gave him was that, what he's planning to do was, hey, it's a dirt lot, the vehicles are tracking mud into the street, will you go ahead and pave it? And that's the steps we started to take and started getting involved in. Okay, we want to be in compliance with the city code, and then this issue came up about having to change it from a B3 to a B4. One of the noted objections, I guess, from the staff was that it is a residential area, but I would like to remind the members of this commission that this is Highway 359, and if you go further east, you've got the dump, and you've got all the oil rig companies that are set out to the east of that, and basically everything along 359 is commercial use. I don't agree with the assessment that this would create additional traffic, because we're not talking about using the heavy equipment in that area, simply repairing them. And again, this is city equipment that's being repaired in the state of Texas, equipment that's being repaired. So we think that this has some collateral benefit to the city to allow him to continue. My familiarity with the bidding process of what happens when the city does award contracts of these types to such individuals is because they're the best deal in town and they've done great work for the city before. So I believe that there is a lot of benefit to, in essence, go against the recommendations at this point, because it's not that they're completely against it, because they are willing to assess, if you look at the report, they are willing to allow the options of the conditional use. The problem with that, as I mentioned, it's temporary and you're having to renew it all the time, and this is a business that's been established there for 40 years. So we're asking this commission to take these, I guess, these issues into consideration before making the determination on this. Again, and this is one added thing I wanted to make out. If you look at the map on the property in question, you do see the residential right behind that. We don't have a visual right now, but on the lateral part that does connect with the residential, there is a high fence, and it's a sound barrier, basically, a benefit to the residential areas. And I don't think that in any of the time that I've represented Mr. Cervantes in the past, there's ever been any complaints about the noise. It's been the mud, and that's what we're trying to fix. So basically, we ended up here in front of this commission, in essence, trying to comply with the city requirements and, upkeep of the neighborhood. and allowing him to have this in some, I guess, some comfort in the future that he's not gonna have to be coming back or maybe subject to taking these vehicles out, a continuation of his business. He's never been a nuisance to his neighbors. There have never been any noise complaints. He specifically does not work on the vehicles. You don't have machineries or cars or vehicles on bricks, to use a kind of cliche. This is simply a temporary lot for vehicles that have been repaired or are waiting to be repaired and nothing else. It's not a used car lot dealer. They're not vehicles that are parked there for indefinite period of times. It's simply a transitional period. And again, the majority of this will be of benefit to the city of Laredo. So we're hoping that the commission will take that into account before making its decision today. And that's all I have for right now, unless you have some questions for me.
Mr. Garcia, I have two questions. One, you did say there was an 8-foot fence in the back abutting the residential. Is that
That's
correct?
correct, Your
It's an
Honor.
opaque fence?
Excuse me?
Is it opaque?
Okay,
OPEC?
okay.
Okay.
Solid.
It's solid, yes.
Okay. The second question I have is, my understanding of this business, I drive by there pretty often. All the work is done inside an enclosed building.
Yes, if you look to the east of
Yes.
the subject property, that's his building, and
Yes.
he's here to verify it. All the work is done indoors. It's not exposed out to the street. And again, all the other compliances as far as the EPA and all that have been met with. And he's never had any kind of problems like that in the neighborhood.
All right.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You said neighbors complained about the mud. Where does the mud come from?
Well, maybe I jumped the gun on that. I assumed that because when they gave the warning and we began to discuss with the zoning and planning or the health department, whoever it was that gave them the citation, we then got involved with the city attorney's office attorney who handles the ordinances for the city of Laredo. And she indicated that the problem was, and I assumed it would have been a residential or an inspector that went by and saw that there was mud leading from the dirt lot into the street.
Oh, because it's not paved.
Because it's not paved. And that's how we specifically got involved. And I guess if he had not tried to comply with the city ordinance, we wouldn't be here today and we'd still be
Does
using
the
it as a
city-
dirt lot.
Does the city require it to be paved?
Yes, well, not completely, but in order to prevent the transfer of the mud from the lot into the street. And so what we did is we worked out a plan, they set out a plan that I guess worked out with the city attorney's office in order to meet them into compliance. And what they had suggested, that, hey, it'll be better for you if you file for a zoning change from a B3 to a B4. So basically, the application came about primarily at the suggestion of the city attorney's office and in dealing with it. I personally deal with them. So again, this is not an attempt to increase volume of work or anything, which has never been a problem in the past. It's simply an ongoing affair that, because of the warning that he got and his desire to be in compliance, we filed this application. So we're hoping that the commission here today will take that into account, that this is not an individual who's trying to circumvent the ordinance of the city, but is basically someone who came before here to try to be in compliant and has never been a nuisance to his neighbors.
Commissioner LeBlanc?
All the points you mentioned right now seem where he would be able to comply with the CUP. My concern is that if the properties were if the zoning would be changed to B4 and the properties were to change hands and someone would invest in the property, the increased use from going to a B3, B4 could probably cause a nuisance to those people who live directly behind that business. No?
No. And I'll tell you why, and let me tell you what my argument on this is. B4 is intended for highway use, okay? This property's got a highway right in front of it, 359. So, I mean, the only reason I believe that you all had to make a determination was based on the comp plan. But if I go based on what the B4 ordinance was made for, it was for properties that abut highways, and this property abuts a highway.
It's in the definition here.
Well, both of those reasons, because the comprehensive plan designates this differently, as well as the intense use of like residential district.
Well, but I think what we need to look at the intense use is this. We need to look at these particular use here is not going into the neighborhood. It is staying outside of the neighborhood, okay? Because if you look, and I'm looking at the aerial, okay? I'm familiar with the site because I drive by, I've driven by there over 40 years. Most of the way this business usually operates, that particular lot is just a support for any vehicle that is not being worked on. Everything is being done across the street. The problem that he has is obviously his facility is not big enough to house all these vehicles, so he's got an overflow of business, and that's where he's putting either finished vehicles or vehicles that are being. But none of this traffic goes back, okay? It all comes forward into the highway. There's a traffic light at that corner that controls traffic movements. So I don't see where it would personally, and I'm speaking personally, where it would have an impact on the residential traffic because you already have a controlled entrance and exit, okay? And since it is abutting a highway and a B4 zone is an appropriate zone for that, I think, as opposed to, now, if we go to what the comp plan asked for, which is high density, now you do have a lot more trip generations coming into that intersection because on a high density, well, now we're talking about apartment complexes. So now we're adding a lot more traffic to this particular neighborhood, the entrance and exit. For that reason, is some things that I just wanted to point out. Okay, that's.
Excuse me, they're gonna be, after this, if you're gonna do this change, or what, are you gonna do some improvements to the property itself?
Excuse me?
Is there gonna be any improvements done, if anything of this?
We have to, basically, is a short answer, and improvements in the sense that we have to, yes, there's certain grades that we have to use in order to pave that, so the short answer is yes. And just to kind of reiterate what the chair said, I mean, it seems like the staff is willing to grant a temporary or conditional use, which tells me, or at least just thinking through this logically, is that they're okay with what he's doing if it's on a temporary basis. We're just asking that it be made permanent, and that's why we're here to ask the commission to approve this.
Just for point of clarification, the staff suggests consideration of a conditional use permit. However, we are not telegraphing a position, either in support or either in support of the conditional use permit. We simply suggested that may be a consideration, since there are residences in the area who may be adversely affected by the noise, dust, lighting, heavy equipment being moved around directly behind their houses.
Well, I think if that would have been the case.
Which could be addressed in the CUP.
Yeah, but
So-
if that would have been the case, the city would have gotten the complaints a long time ago. This business has been there, like he said, over 40 years. And like I said, I am very familiar with the area because I drive it constantly. And I've seen this business there, so.
The only complaints that we have heard from the zoning officers, and they've gotten a few calls, was just simply, on occasion, some of the employees will gather in the parking lot to, I guess, cook out, sort of, those sorts of activities. That they say that it does, there's a bit of noise associated with that. But those are the only.
I think that's because the Cowboys did so well this year.
Yeah, that's, okay. That's something that the owner can control. I don't think that'd be a problem. I was more concerned, we didn't really have any notices of opposition from the abutting landowners.
No, we did not.
So, I mean, since we didn't have that opposition, it's just, to me, that's something that I look at too. Do we have a lot of opposition against what is being proposed here or what has been done here for the longest time?
And
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I just may clarify my point, I guess I'm not concerned as far as his activities or what he's doing as far as a property owner now. I'm just looking at future down the road as far as what repercussions could happen if, it does change hands and something else becomes of the property. But like I said.
Well, if I may just respond to that real quick. Obviously, there's no way we can predict what's going to happen in the future, but what we do have here in front of us, if you look to the property to the east, which is where they actually do the work, he's already landlocked. So he's limited in what he can do, basically, to what's there now. So the only thing we do know for sure is that his business, again, as I mentioned, has been there for 40 years, is locked in. He can't increase, he can decrease, but he can't increase. So as far as the amount of equipment that's being parked there, it's going to be limited to what he can do out of that little building. So that can give you some safeguard. Now, this is, again, this is a company that's been in existence for over 40 years. The city has chosen, and through whatever process they use, that this is one of the more reputable persons that we can take our trucks to. They use them all the time. He has 2 sons, I believe, that work with him. There's no reason to think that this is going to change anytime in the near future, because in this town, you don't survive unless you're a good mechanic, because we have a lot of them. But the fact that this man has done what he's done for the amount of time that he's done, and he has his family working there, as well as his daughter, this is not going to change anytime soon, and she's here too. So I think it's a safe bet that this is not going to turn into, I don't know, I mean, what you might, a junkyard or, something that might be an eyesore for the neighbors. I mean, he's part of that neighborhood. He would have no reason to make it a dingier place. If anything, I mean, that's, again, the mentality of my client for being here is because he wanted to be in compliance with the city ordinances. So I ask that the commission take that into account.
All right. Any other questions?
Any oppositions on this side?
No opposition.
No opposition?
I just have a question for staff or comments. So the houses, the residential, in the back came after this is what's established, right?
Yes.
And by definition, a B4 is highway and should be located on major arterials, which 359 fits that profile, right?
Correct, it doesn't meet the location and size of lot area
So,
requirements.
not thinking of the comprehensive plan, but thinking as far as like planners,
Mhm.
when the residential subdivision went in the back, at that point, shouldn't it have been restricted to maybe some kind of
Well, it is
business?
restricted to B3, which is a lighter,
the
lighter
residential,
use.
the lots in the back,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
right? So but there are ones, there are.
There are ones, but you have, B3 allows residential uses.
Right.
So there is a transition there, allows commercial uses, and then it abuts commercial. I mean, I'm sorry, abuts residential.
Okay.
But now the B4 goes a
More
little bit
intense,
beyond,
right.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, so for B3,
Mm-hmm.
it can be used as a parking lot,
A parking lot, but not heavy equipment. Heavy equipment needs B4.
just to park vehicles?
Yes.
Okay. But changing it to B4 can change what they can use it for as well.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I looked at the regulations right before I came in, and the B3 says cars, basically vehicles. So really, the only thing that we're asking to change is to allow bigger vehicles to be parked there, which, as I was mentioning earlier, would be the city vehicles that are being repaired there.
But the B4, there's other criteria you can use it for, but there's other rules that apply to it. Like if it's some, like parking ratios, distance between residential, if it's a bar, like
Yeah.
you can't just
It
put
depends on the
anything.
use.
No, I know.
Depends
I
on
know
the use.
exactly, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Red. This is a public hearing. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change? In favor of the zone change? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? Against the zone change? Okay, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'd like to make a motion to close public hearing and go against staff and support the zone change.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? We have one against. Okay, motion carries.
Which one's against?
He's against. All right, next item we have is item 6F. The public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by authorizing a special use permit for a restaurant serving alcohol on Lot 1, Block 1, Jackman Road subdivision located at 6402 North Bartlett Avenue, Suite 2. The staff does not support the special use permit for the following reasons. There is a residential district, 174.61 feet, and the nearest residence is 243.09. The ordinance, I believe, calls for 300 feet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So this is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this SUP? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Maribel Garcia, and I'm here on behalf of Las Brasitas LLC, Christopher Lozano, and Encarnacion Guerra. It is located at the Guerra Communication Center at 6402 Bartlett Street. It is an existing business for a year. They have two locations, but for this one, they do want the special use permit. It's a very nice atmosphere and all that area. It is commercial, and until now, they haven't had any problems.
Any questions from the commission?
Until.
Looking for late hours?
I get, well, 1 o'clock, yes, would be considered late hours, but just for beer and wine.
Is there any staff, is there any oppositions on this item?
We received none in opposition.
Okay. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the SUP? In favor of the SUP? Anybody who wishes to speak against the special use permit being issued? Against the special use permit? All right. What are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to close public hearing and support applicant for a conditional use permit.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against? Motion carries. Next item that we have is public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by authorizing a special use permit for a restaurant serving alcohol on Lot 1, Block 1, Kimberly Plaza, located at 4800 McPherson Road, Suite B. The staff does not support the special use permit. Again, it's a distance requirement. They have the nearest residence is 268.42 feet instead of the 300 that is required by the ordinance. And believe the comprehensive, well, neighborhood mixed use, this is a mixed use, so that really is immaterial. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the special use permit, in favor of the special use permit?
Good evening to everyone. My name is Gustavo Rubio. I'm the owner of the restaurant. And the only reason we're applying for the liquor license, which is the SUP permit, the special use permit, is because we've been losing business. Some of the customers get there and we ask them what we like to drink, right? And they ask for a beer or something, they just leave. I mean, basically, we're just losing business. These are the restaurant of the family, and we do serve beer, basically, on the other two. And it's just like for the food. We don't have like bars or clubs or anything like that. We want to make it.
You're doing you're asking just for what hours of operation that you want to serve?
We'll open at 6 in the morning. We close at 11 p.m. But
that's the schedule and the hourly that you're gonna sell alcohol. You don't want to extend after 11 o'clock.
We did apply for the after hours, but we don't. We do have it at the other restaurant at 220 West Saunders, which is.
I think there's some conditions.
But we never use it like late, basically.
Does it say anything on the conditions? 6G?
Yeah, there's conditions.
Are you familiar with the conditions of the special use permit?
Have you read through the conditions that you have?
Yes.
Are you?
You're okay with that?
Yes.
All right.
Because.
Which one are you reading from?
No, it's just that.
It's 2 in the morning.
Because usually there's a time frame for.
Yeah, but it's got hours of operation Monday through Sunday from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. is what they're saying on the SUP. So he's covered.
So you're using.
That's fine. All right.
All right, any other questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the special use permit, in favor of the special use permit?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it's reflected on your communication. In case it isn't, we did send out 12 letters and we did receive 2 in opposition.
Okay.
I'll see.
No, I didn't. Yeah, okay, that was missed on our communication. Okay, so you had 2 opposition out of 12 surrounding properties.
Correct.
Okay, all right. This is a public hearing. Anybody who still wishes to speak in favor of the special use permit, in favor? Anybody who wishes to speak against the special use permit, against the special use permit.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, ladies. Yes, we're against.
Sir, your
Your name for the record, please.
Sorry, yes, first time ever, so don't attack me, please. Compassion. My name is Juan Gatza, for the records. We been in business for the last 30-some years, by the grace of God, so I had to be very thankful for that. We bought this property, we're neighbors to this restaurant, and we bought this property more than 30 years ago. Exactly about 31 to 33 years ago. It's not the first time that we see a restaurant, but on these days, I don't know what happened, to be honest with you, because in the past, it used to be only one restaurant, and then we had two little restaurants. And this past year, out of the blue, now we have 3 restaurants in one place. And the big problem there is with the parking lot. In our property on our side, we have about 30 spots. And with the 3 restaurants, believe it or not, it's about 30 or less parking spots for 3 restaurants. That's one thing. The other thing is the alcohol, just like you folks mentioned a little while ago, there's next door, Broadacres Apartments. This is a community of low income, and most of those neighbors, they are, grown-up people, low income. It's just right next to the next entrance. There's more than 50 families living there, for the record. I'm pretty sure if you check on how many people live in the Broadacre Apartments, you will find out. It's a place that has been around for more than 30 years. In Laredo, I know that for the fact because they were there before we moved our business into that location. And those are the main reasons why we're against. But the way we feel is if there's an alcohol, most likely people at lunchtime, whoever pleases, they will go and buy beer. So that means more people coming to the restaurant and more issues for the parking space. When they're so packed, there's a problem with the entrance. Trucks come to deliver stuff to our business. Again, we've been for a long time in business. And usually we receive trucks for shipment 3 to 5 times a week. And there's been times when, wow, the traffic gets just big jam because there's people parking in the wrong places. In the far lines where they're supposed to be parking. So it creates a bottleneck that is going all the way out to the street. And now we feel because now selling alcohol will create a new, bigger problem than what we already have today. So that's why I said, oops, I have to go up to the front and speak my mind. It's nothing against them because they're good people. But again, a lot of people in town, they don't understand about the meaning of obeying the law. Like no parking in the wrong spots, parking where I'm supposed to, and that creates bottlenecks. And that's exactly the problem that we've been having for the last few months. And that's
Mr.
the
Garza,
main
let me
reason.
ask you, the bottlenecks, the amount of traffic on the parking lot, is that like during a peak period, like lunch, breakfast, or is it constant, or what?
In the mornings at lunchtime, up to 2 o'clock, we can breathe a little bit more easy. One of the 3 restaurants, they don't open on Mondays, and that's a big relief. I'm pretty sure, we can tell you. Because there's only 2 restaurants operating Mondays. And it's a relief for everybody because there's not so many cars. Can you imagine 3 restaurants? And then we have our business, and then a Larcon Beauty Salon, and another one at the end of the building. So too many businesses in such a small area. That's what I was surprised to see the city, making permits for so many restaurants with no parking space.
I mean, there is, I know there's some issue came upon about trying to reevaluate the parking and making it, but I know that there isn't even a uniformized parking situation there. There's an area in the back, X amount of feet from the back end where you say the apartments are, but.
Yes.
I mean, I know that if you are uniformized and then compromise with whoever you own half the property and they own the other side, whoever the owners are of the property. I mean, yeah, it is a tight spot, but I don't see any type of uniformization of like a re-evaluation of the parking. So, I mean, I know that they're trying to stay in business and
Mhm.
then, I mean, we're just trying to compromise and make sure that it's best for both parties, but I am familiar with the location, and sometimes it's like, on their end, maybe your end, you have your specified parkings, but I think on their end, they just need to actually really
And I'm
make that.
glad you're touching that point, Mr. Lopez. I'm very happy with it. Last year, the owner of this place, because again, it's myself and then them, and the beauty salon. He approached me, Mr. Garza, we have to do something about the parking. I go, what can I do? Pues, you know, okay, it's so tight and this and that, and then you put in there parking only Monday through Friday, AM to 6 PM, only. Meaning that after 6 PM is wide open, the 30-some spaces that we have, almost 30 spots that we have available, open. If they close until 9, 10, 11, midnight, open to anybody to wish to come and park. And I mentioned exactly what you said, Mr. Lopez. You have a big blank spot on the back. Why don't you send employees to go park in that part? And to what I understood or what he told me, he's planning to open another business on the back. And I was like, what? So hard to believe it, and I said, wow. So can you imagine, right now it's a bottleneck for the entrance to go to the parking lot. Now to go around in order to hit the back, exactly what you're talking about, whoa, how are we gonna make it?
So your issue is basically the parking part of it, not really the sale of alcohol. It's not really, you don't have any problem him selling alcohol in his
Oh, yes,
establishment.
yes. Again, the problem is, again, I've been living in Laredo, I'm from Mexico. I moved to this side of the border back in 1974. I've been a witness of so many things. And I know when people start drinking, they might go a little bit wild. Like I told you, the next entrance is for the Broadacre Apartments. Grown-up people, you can check that out, see what kind of people they live in that area. So it's a concern. I mean, I'm pretty sure nothing's gonna happen during business hours.
What is the concern with the Broadacre Apartments that you have?
I'm sorry?
What is your concern with the Broadacre Apartments?
No. I don't know if we're breaking the law, if somebody's breaking the laws by selling alcohol just 15 feet, 25 feet away from this entrance.
Oh, that's your report, okay. All right, any questions for Mr. Garza from the commission?
I have a question for Mr. Garza. Your business is, which one?
Print Express,
Print Express,
Uh-huh.
okay. And your hours of operation are from what time?
8:30 AM to 6 PM Monday through Friday.
8 to 6. So your concern is breakfast and lunch,
When it gets complicated.
right? And it's a restaurant, so it's beer, more likely it's gonna be beer and wine, maybe not heavy liquor, or a bar type of establishment, right?
Again, I'm pretty sure that we create more traffic, especially at, lunchtime when some people like to go and eat and have a beer, 2 beers and go back to work. In the evening after hours,
You're closed at that time?
yeah, it's not an issue with me.
Okay.
They know that they're more than welcome to park our.
So the likelihood of someone having a beer or wine during lunch is low?
Well, again, it's gonna create more traffic.
But what is your analysis based on that it's gonna create more traffic? That he's gonna have a sale of alcohol, is that what you're?
Unless I misunderstood from the beginning, that's a license for alcohol.
No, it is, but my question to you is, your concern is that you think because he's gonna sell alcohol, that he's gonna generate more business and cause more traffic, that's your concern, right? Okay.
But that's based on an assumption.
Yeah, it's based
For
on
the
this.
last 37 years of being there,
It's just a beer and wine license, it's not an alcohol license, they're just allowed to sell beer and.
I don't drink, so actually I don't know the difference between one and the other.
It's not a mixed beer, it's not like they sell other types of, I think it's just more of a compliment, usually restaurants have that, there's certain people that do have their lip.
Gotcha.
We're just trying to compromise here and making sure that both parties, as yourself, as the business owner, it's
Yes.
actually a lease tenant that's most likely leasing the property for an X amount of time, and I know there's been, businesses that have been there have lasted, but I guess right now, things are different. I guess they're just trying to, innovate and see what else they can do to at least stay afloat, but I know that
Again-
businesses have been there and they're successful. I do, like you said, it's good that they have certain amount of traffic and create jobs or whatever the case may be, and at the same time, the people that go with, I mean, it's a win-win combination, but we're just trying to compromise, make sure that both parties are satisfied, and I don't know if he's a property owner or not, I'm not sure about that, but we're just trying to compromise and make sure that we could, make sure that, like yourself, you have your concerns, and I'll definitely, as a business owner, also trying to defend what he's trying to propose already.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak against the special use permit, against the special use permit. All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
District is I make a motion to go against staff recommendation and approve the permit.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. The next item that we have is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning Lot 6, Block 519, Western Division, located at 1902 West Ana, from R1 to B1. There was 32 letters sent out. Is there any updates on the letters?
No updates.
No updates, so there was 0 in favor and 0 in opposition. The staff supports the proposed zone change. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Mi nombre es Luis Guzmán. Soy el propietario del solar en la 1902 West Ana Avenue. La razón por la que estoy solicitando el cambio de zona es porque uso la propiedad para estacionar unos vehículos ahí. Tengo un negocio de landscaping y para no tener los vehículos en la calle, en el 2016 salió la oportunidad de comprar el solar y pues creí yo que para no tener los vehículos en la calle, lo compré para estacionar ahí.
Okay. Any questions? Gracias. Public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor of the zone change. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change. Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change, against the zone change. All right, staff does support the zone change. There'll be one.
Just for informational purposes, the commercial parking lot will require a B3 zone. It's not allowed in the B1 that he is requesting. And he will need to come back and apply for CUP for the proposed use. And the applicant is aware.
He's aware.
He is aware.
That he needs to, you have to go from an R1 to a lowest B zone. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change, against the zone change? Okay. What are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to close public hearing and support staff's recommendation for zone change.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item that we have is, in the zone, public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning the west 10 feet of 45 feet of Lot 8, Lot 9, and Lot 10, Block 101 Western Division, located at 515 and 519 Matamoros Street, from B1 to B3. The proposed use is a used car lot, and the staff supports the zone change. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change? In favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff,
Jeff Wig with Civil Engineering Consultants, and we represent the applicant who supports the zone change.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Puig? Thank you, Mr. Puig.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? Against the zone change? Okay, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make the motion to close public hearing and approve the zone change.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next item that we have is the consideration to vacate the plat of Piazza del Sol as recorded on July 7, 2009. All right, so the proposed action is approval. What are the wishes of the commission?
Motion to approve.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is the review and reconsideration of Los Presidentes East Master Plan. The intent is residential and commercial. The purpose of this revision is to reconfigure phases and realign streets. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, from fire, from traffic safety, from parks and leisure, and a notice to developer from planning. And the engineer of record is Howland Engineering.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested this item be tabled.
All right. Can we have a motion to table?
Motion to table the item.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries, thank you. Next item that we have is the preliminary consideration of the replat of Lot 4, Block 455, Eastern Division into Lot 4A, Block 455, Eastern Division. The purpose of this replat is to add a drainage easement across the lot so the installed underground drainage system. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, and a notice to developer. What are the wishes of the commission?
Motion to approve, subject to the following comments. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you all very much.